How is it going? Welcome into another YouTube live here on Nobby on Cars, and hopefully this week, I have managed to do all the settings correct, and I'm not sitting there talking to myself for ages, because that would definitely be that wouldn't be good. So feel free to get involved, ask a question down below. Hope everyone's all right this Thursday evening. On what is well, some people are back to school, but in my house, no one's back to school until tomorrow morning. So it is one of those yeah, it's one of those nights where it was the night before peace resuming and returning to the house, which is always good. So anyway, here for your car questions, your car dilemmas, anything you might want to ask me. Now's your chance, basically. So yeah, feel free to get involved in the car questions down below, because this is kind of the way it works. It works best when people are kind of chatting away to me and they're able to ask questions, because I think it's just a good opportunity. If you might have a car dilemma, people I get a lot of people in DMs saying, "Oh, like I'm on my third Tiguan and I'm not sure should I go again," or similar types of things. So yeah, it's a good opportunity. It's not always that easy to answer these questions on YouTube comments, and I don't always get a chance to spend hours and hours on Instagram answering DMs. So this is a good way to do it. And of course, if you want to support the channel, you can give us tips and super chats and anything like that you want to contribute to the channel, or just a like or a subscription or a comment or watch it back afterwards. Good evening, John McGarvey. What do you think about the look of the new T-Roc? Well, it's not a surprise, really, I suppose, when you look at how the new T-Roc, it was unveiled yesterday about 10 o'clock our time. I wasn't at the premiere. I don't think there's any Irish media at the premiere. Basically, it's up to the car companies themselves. Do they want to have the expense of sending people over to look at particular models? They might base the importance of one model over another. I would have thought the T-Roc was actually a really, really important car for VW, and I'm sure it is, but I wasn't there to see it. But it's quite like an ID4 at the front. Do you agree? I think we were talking about this on the Drivers Republic podcast. There's a new episode of that out today as well, with Paddy and myself, back with season 3. And he was saying it kind of reminded him of the Renault 5 in that it's yellow with a black roof. And he was like, I think they're trying to maybe just capture the Renault 5 thing. It does look a lot better. It has physical buttons on the steering wheel. I don't think we're going to see any major changes with power outputs, engines. I get the sense that for now, at least, VW, they're going to tweak and enhance their engines as we know them, but I don't see them investing loads and loads of money in new engines when they don't know, are Europe moving goalposts? Are they, pushing out, banning sales of combustion engines and all that stuff? So if you were them, you wouldn't be investing loads in R&D on new engines. I don't think, anyway. Should Man United players have their sponsored cars taken off them? That was some penalty shootout last night, wasn't it? It was unbelievable. Do Man United players have sponsored cars? I would have thought they've so much money they don't need to get free cars. Because let's face it, anyone who's getting a free car, they're just doing it to save a few quid, I suppose. Thoughts on the X-Trail or a Bigster or a Kodiak? This came up last week actually as well. I don't know if it was you, Paul, or somebody else. And I actually saw a new X-Trail after doing last week's live Q&A. I think they're all like, the Bigster is great value. What I really like about the Bigster is there's kind of a version for everybody. So if you want to spend loads and loads of money, you can spend nearly 40 grand, and you want the one with the electric boot. Although weirdly, the highest trim, I don't think has an electric boot, but does have the glass roof. And if you want the electric boot, you're dropping down a spec. I might see my phone. I definitely have the specs that they would have done. My problem is trying to find out. As I'm sure everyone is the same. It's so many pictures in your phone these days, and you don't know where and how far back you're trying to go to find them. But I definitely have them. I know, like, there's 4x4 options. There is an LPG option as well for people who want to do that. I know it's here somewhere, so just bear with me. I'll tell you what I think is the best trim. I just can't particularly remember the name of it right now. I've also noticed to do that singing thing when I'm looking for stuff. So apologies, because if I was watching somebody and they were doing that, it would drive me a little bit insane. Getting there, I'm getting there. Problem modern phones, they take too many pictures, they store too many pictures. Stop singing, Nobby, stop singing. Thank you for tuning in, by the way. If you have just, a lot of people said to me, oh, well done on your first live, which was very nice and everything, but people were kind of just tuning in halfway, so it was, people actually didn't notice that I hadn't set it up right last week, which was kind of nice. Okay, here we go. So the top spec is 36690. That's for the Extreme 4x4, the Extreme 130. I think the one most will probably benefit from is the HEV, the hybrid 155. That's 34690. Or then you can have the Journey. So the Journey hybrid is 37.5. It's a lot for a Dacia. Like when the Duster launched here, whatever it was, 13 more years ago, probably more, it was 12 grand or something. Obviously everything has gone up, but it doesn't feel like that price. Maybe it still has a Dacia feel to it, which is great, but like you can buy one model for €10 less than 30 grand, the TCE 140, and then the first 4x4 version is not even 35 grand. And when you're comparing those cars to the, thank you very much for your support there, Patrick Keelty. It's not. When you're comparing those cars then to an X-Trail, which is a much more expensive car, Kodiaq, a much more expensive car, they really do still seem like good value. They're much more expensive than they were. But I do like, again, you can really you can decide, am I paying a lot for my Dacia? Am I paying 30 grand or am I paying 40 grand? And I think that's kind of cool, because in Ireland, sometimes you don't get loads and loads of spec options. Thanks, John. My wife is looking for a 7-seater and considering test driving the Hyundai Santa Fe. Any thoughts on this or reasonably priced alternatives? I'd have a look at the Mazda CX-60 if you want. The Santa Fe is an interesting one. Also, there's the Ioniq 9, but that is a bit dearer. You know, for low 60s, you can get a Santa Fe. The back of them is a very divisive design. There's one where I live, and it's kind of a really rich green. It's not an army green, but I'm all for bright colors in cars, as maybe you know, you've heard me waxing on about that. But the kind of, it's just a beautiful looking green, and Hyundai are doing some really interesting colors. Like the Ioniq 9 I had was the Ionosphere green was the name of it. There's that kind of burnt orange in the Ioniq 5. So they really are making some striking looking colors, and I think that kind of adds to the car, and that kind of green works on the Santa Fe. I think the front of it, I think, is beautiful. Like it's, everyone has said it, it looks like a Land Rover at the front. So I'd have a look. Like, it's all the usuals. There's the Kodiaq, but you can't get that in a plug-in hybrid in a 7-seater, whereas this you can. The boot is massive. You know, it is. I think there's 2 trims on it from memory. You're talking mid-60s for the higher trim. Will there be depreciation? Of course there will, because it's a new car. There always is. It's got some cool things in it. Like, it has this ultraviolet thing in the glove box. So if you had young kids and they drop a suitor on the ground, you can put the suitor in the glove box, the top part, sterilize it, and take it out again. And I don't know what it does to the rest of the humans in the car, but yeah, it's a fairly solid, sensible one to go for. Have a look at, like, I did really like the Mazda CX-80. Some people don't like how the hybrid performs on that. It can be a little bit jumpy. But I think the interior is really nice. The interior kind of reminds me of Lexus. So yeah, I would definitely shortlist the Santa Fe. They're all kind of like that's why the Mazda 6 in my mind is actually, for what it is, it's kind of on the lower. It's just over 60. They have knocked a few quid off the Kodiaq plug-in hybrid, but it's just, do you need a 7-seater? That's the other question. Obviously, the Ioniq 9 I mentioned is €78,500, so that is quite a big jump. Opinions on new Toyota Corolla Cross. You know what? The Yaris Cross, which is kind of the same car, just slightly smaller, is one that I reviewed when it first came out. I think it must be 3-4 years now, but I've actually asked Toyota, can I have another one, just to, it's consistently one of the best selling ones in Ireland, and I'm just kind of a bit like, when I reviewed it, and the same with the Corolla Cross, I just thought the the rear legroom was conservative at best, and particularly in the Corolla Cross, where you might expect to have a little bit more room, I just thought it was a little bit tight. Um, and again, I was sort of asking some other colleagues, like, what is the Yaris Cross obsession? And it's just people that don't really need back seats all that often, and they're able to sacrifice it, and they don't have to obviously get the bigger car. Um, I think if you could make do with the Yaris Cross, just get that. Is the Corolla that much of a jump, or just get a Corolla Estate? You know, I know they're not exactly as fashionable, but you have that huge boot. Even Joe, driving a company car EV, can see the financial attraction fade on this when the government subsidy reduces to 20 grand in January. Company EVs seem to be driving EV uptake. Yeah, no, they are. ID4, for example, has been a massive seller this year, and for most of last year as well. And it's been the number one electric fleet car for quite a while. From talking to people who have the opportunity of company cars and stakeholders in that, what really annoys them is how little certainty the government give. So that you don't really know, what am I going to be paying in a couple of years. So if you have your company car for 3 years time, you don't know by the third year currently how much it's going to cost you per month, and that definitely doesn't help. Is it boosting sales of EVs? Absolutely, yeah, it is. But I must actually delve into it maybe for next week's podcast, or next time I do one of these, just to see how much is kind of, because it's quite easy to see it on the sign by figures. How many are private sales versus business ones. What do you think? A new model Mazda CX-5 or CX-60 diesel PHEV? The only companies doing diesel PHEVs are Mercedes. New CX-5 is coming, obviously. I'm sure you know that, Colm. So that's next year. Before we see that, I think it could be really interesting. I was at a Mazda event about maybe 2 months ago at this stage now, and they showed us the new 6E, which unfortunately is not coming in right-hand drive till well into next year. And that car is, I think there'll be a left-hand drive Mazda 6E in the country towards October, November. So keep an eye on your Mazda dealers. I know that's not the car you asked me about, but just I'm kind of excited by it. It is a good-looking car. CX-60. I really like CX-60. It's obviously here now rather than the CX-5. Would you? I always say, if you got a CX-60 and the new CX-5 drove by you next summer, how would you feel? Would you be like, I wish I'd waited? I think that's a good way of judging, should I get one versus the other. If you think, I'll be okay, but I don't really care, just get the CX-60. Looks like the period of fast depreciation of used EVs has ended, judging from Dundee and their listings. From speaking to dealers, have you heard anything about this? There must be demand after all. I haven't been speaking to anybody, but I have been watching, as I often do, just the prices of particularly the premium stuff. So I was looking at Spirit Motors, who are very supportive of the channel in Sandyford, and they actually have a used Taycan, and it's about 55. I think it's a 2023 one. It's kind of a powdery blue color. And I was actually going to maybe do a video on the kind of used premium stuff. The Audi e-tron GTs as well. They have stabilized. They're two very specific models, obviously. A lot of car for what they are. I mean, is the depreciation in them over? As in, is it going to drop over another 3 years if you bought one today? Of course. But I don't think we will. No, we're not going to see those big cuts. I just don't think there's financial opportunities even for brands. There is actually very little markup in new cars, and we've spoken about this again on the podcast. When a brand drops 10 grand off a model overnight, where does that 10 grand come from? Because people just think it's the Irish outlet going, we're just wiping this off, and it's like the factory have to readjust their prices. So there's a kind of a combination. It just doesn't come out of one person's pocket. Like, there are still good value ID4s and stuff like that out there, but again, a new ID4 now is low 30s if you want one. I think the days of seeing 10 grand wiped off an ID Buzz overnight, which obviously did happen, and it was very, very frustrating for people that had bought them. you'd like to think those days are gone, and they're also, I mean, there has been an uptake on EVs this year. So if we were facing into another kind of negative year of EVs, you'd kind of see people having to readjust. That said, and again, this came up today on the podcast, the Volvo EX90 in a few weeks' time, that car is currently, I don't want to quote me on this, but from memory, it's about 130 grand. You can buy an XC90 with a plug-in hybrid for about 100. And there is talk, it's not confirmed, and it's rumors and all that stuff, but we do get to hear things on the ground sometimes. And I think the appetite for Volvo is to have the X90 and the XC90, price parity, which a lot of brands are. It is at the smaller end of things, like a petrol EC3 or a petrol C3 is the same price as an EC3. So it is important that there's no point. Like, remember 5 years ago, a plug-in hybrid of the same car was like 7 grand more. It just didn't make sense. Yes, you could save fuel, but it was like the days of, I'm gonna buy this new diesel 5 Series because it's got cheap motor tax, and people they weren't seeing the bigger picture of the cost to change and then the depreciation, and it's a bit like that all over again. So yeah, if you were buying something premium 4 years old or so, I'd be definitely interested in how you get on and prices, and I think things like e-tron GTs are kind of decent value now. If you get one for the low 50s, and if you've never driven one, like, they are properly sporty feeling car, very, very good looking. I mean, I nearly think the e-tron GT, let me know what you think in the comments, is better looking than a Taycan. I also know a friend of mine bought a Taycan the end of last year. She's had horrendous problems with it. New battery cells, charging port won't open, aircon went on it. She didn't buy it from Porsche Dublin, but in fairness to Porsche Dublin, they really did look after her. And also, the dealer she bought the car from were just like a small used dealer. They kind of looked after her as best they could as well. But it has been an eye opener, and it's kind of ruined the car for her, because she, you buy a Porsche and you think great, and then stuff goes wrong straight away. On that note, from my own Porsche, I don't have an electric one, but I do have a 20-year-old Porsche, and I've had a quote this week for some just wear and tear items, and I was like, let's just say I need lots of YouTube super chats to cover it. So yeah, like anything, these cars can be very expensive. Just bear that in mind when you're buying a car that was 120 grand. When things go wrong, it's a 120 grand car, not a 50 grand car. So that's important to remember as well. Rainy day money, basically. Missed the beginning. Did you answer a question on the new Toyota Cross coming? Price? Do back seats give more knee room? I'd actually have to check for you. I haven't seen enough about it just yet. But generally speaking, I often find Toyota a little bit shortcoming when it comes to rear legroom. Any thoughts on the AGM 12-volt batteries? Seems to be better than lead acid versions. Yeah, there's definitely, are they a little bit more expensive? But again, is it a case of you get what you pay for? 12 volts don't seem to last as long these days, especially in EVs. I know someone who has a 4-year-old or is it 3-year-old Toyota CHR, and literally last week they had what they thought were bigger problems with the hybrid and everything else, and it was just the 12 volt. And yeah, that doesn't seem to be the life of a typical 12 volt. So yeah, give them a go, Mr. Bucko 1990. You let us know how you get on. Thank you as well to Kieran Curran for supporting there with a little tip. This is not the reason for me doing these, by the way, but I do appreciate it. Can you do a review on the new VW Tyron PHEV or Tiguan PHEV? They're both on the channel, Barry. I did a Tyron PHEV versus diesel comparison with Bob Flavin about 2 months ago, so it's there if you go looking for it. What is the new EV model launch you cannot wait to test out? When will BMW finally release the first Neue Klasse for reviews? So I'm going to IAA in Munich next week. I'm going with BYD, then I'm going with BMW. Xpeng, not BYD. Then I'm doing Hyundai Shoot. Can't talk about it. And then I'm doing BMW, and then I'm coming home for about 12 hours, and then I'm going back again on the Sunday with Volkswagen to see the new T-Roc and some of their other new stuff. and hopefully getting Andreas Mint, who's their head of design. If you follow him on Instagram, very kind of approachable car designer, because a lot of car designers get a bit of a bad rep for being divas, but he's just a very likable fella. He was on my channel a couple of years ago when they did the ID2 GTI, I think it was. Anyway, Neue Klasse next week. Hopefully I'll have more information for you then. It's been such a long time coming. Like the Neue Klasse stuff, I first saw it 2 years ago at IAA. And these things, they just take too long. So yeah, there's some other Xpeng stuff. Some of the other models that we don't have here yet, I'll be getting to look at them next week, but that will be coming. So yeah, I'm interested in that. Going to be driving the Kia EV4 and the PV van in late September. I'm driving the new Nissan Leaf as well in October. So there's lots of stuff coming. I do also have an Alpine A110 outside the house this week with 250 brake horsepower and a 1.8 petrol engine from the McGann RS Trophy. So for people saying I'm sick of EVs, that will be on the channel soon as well. By the way, is the lighting okay? Because I bought some lights since I last did a YouTube live. I do want to get a nice kind of background as well, because I think the whole thing can look nice. So let me know what you think. Love the tape measuring of the boot. From Shut Your Face. Yes, it's helpful, I suppose. I did see it on Autocafool, so I can't say I invented it, but it is a good idea. Better Half is looking to trade in a 221 ID3. Narrowed it down to the new Cupra the new Cupra what? Born? ID3 or L-Roc. 50 to 60 kilowatt hour will do fine as its second car. Which would you go for? So my parents have gone from a 221 ID3 to an L-Roc, and they love it. And they did have some software issues with the ID3. Yeah, that's all I say about that. So like summertime, really warm, aircon out of control on full heat. Doors wouldn't open sometimes. They had lots of issues with their ID3. And you know, and they were kind of Volkswagen fans for pretty much life, and now they're in their first Skoda, and they may not go back. So I'd probably look. You didn't mention what Cooper, so I'm assuming you're going to say the Born, or do you mean the Tavascan? Tavascan is not. Go again with the ID3, but why not have a change? Have a change. Do you know if Amoda and JQ are coming to Ireland from 2026? Get asked this a lot. I don't know currently. Are they? I don't see why they wouldn't. And it's just I can only assume there's an importer right now chatting. Like none of us, from what I can tell anyway, knew that Leap Motor were coming to Ireland until, you know, there was a big announcement, and Gown Motors are the importer for Leap Motor. Now, they are connected to Stellantis, so it kind of makes sense why they do that. But I can see why JQ particularly, or Armada, wouldn't. The question is, how many, you know, new brands is there a market for in Ireland? Where we sell 120,000 new cars a year. Not a lot. You know, look at Great Wall Motors, you know, and the Funky Cat. Yeah, look at young one of them trading that in. Now there's some depreciation. Changing in August 2026. I'm currently stuck between a Inster and a Kia PV5. Have you seen both in the flesh? Which would you choose? Yes, they're both on the channel. I've done several Insta videos. Very different cars. Like a PV5 is a very functional, it's a good utility vehicle. It does not have the charm of an ID Buzz. So it just doesn't. They have a wheelchair accessible vehicle for it, which is brilliant. And what I love about it is, if you have someone in your life who needs a wheelchair, it's like Kia spoke to people who actually are in these situations and said, what would you love in this car? If we could make something that was really useful for you, what should we do? And in the PV5, in the wheelchair version, there's a seat beside the wheelchair user. So if it was a child, a parent or a guardian or an older sibling can sit beside them. There's a proper belt beside them as well. And just, they're not shoved down the back on their own. And I just thought that was brilliant. but they're very different cars. So if you need a PV5, get a PV5. If you don't, Insta is a cracking little car. Now I am surprised about the PV5 pricing. It's again, from memory, I know it creeps into 40s, but I think there is one below 40s. I think it'd be a great vehicle for delivery companies and stuff. You'll probably see Amazon doing lots of them. What's your favorite car? Oh God, that changes a lot. I've never been massively into Ferraris. I drove a Ferrari once. I know this probably sounds ridiculous, but I was just pushing buttons for drive, and I was like, I mean, obviously it's ridiculously fast, ridiculously loud. I just didn't get it. I've always loved 911s. Doesn't really matter what incarnation, they're all beautiful. I do really regret in my late 20s, probably actually, a 993 was about 12,000 sterling, and I still can't explain to myself or you why I didn't buy one, because the same car is now about £80,000, and here 100, and what a car. And yeah, 911 turbo. If I won the lotto tomorrow, 911 turbo, or some of the GT3, like Chris Harris put up a beautiful video about 3 weeks ago. Go watch it on his channel. Porsche met him at the side of a road. Looks like maybe Swiss Alps, I don't know. And the car rolls off the back of the truck, and it's just, and even the way it's shot as well, it's absolutely savage. I love Chris's stuff. He's brilliant. Other questions. Looked at the BMW ID4 on Tuesday. Can't get over the price difference between the 35 and the 40. Not a huge difference in range, but still feel I want the larger 40. Cars are kind of, thanks for your question, Nikolai. Look, cars are kind of seat of pants feelings, gut feelings. If you know it's going to bother you. I bought a 5 Series years ago. It was an M Sport. Didn't realise until the day I was collecting it that it had the M Sport suspension deleted. So it sat higher than a normal M Sport. And it also affected the handling. And it just annoyed me so much. And I owned the car for, I don't know, a couple of years. But every time I looked at it, it bugged me. So I know that's kind of not the same. It's not a visual thing. The other question to ask yourself is, when someone else is buying your car and you're trying to get the best price for it, will they want a 40? That's the question. I was talking to someone last week who, on the back of my review, he said to me, I'm not blowing smoke. I was like, no, it's fine. He's getting one next week. It's a company car. I do, like, obviously they're a bit heavier than your average BMW, but I did find, and I probably own more BMWs than any bloody make a car. What I liked about the i4 was, even with the extra weight, it still kind of captured what it was to drive a BMW. Didn't matter that it was electric versus petrol versus diesel. It just had a good driving feel to it. Barry Caroon, what is your opinion on the VW ID7? I love it, but buy a Tourer and get the dynamic chassis control. Lovely car. Had one for 2 weeks. Christmas just gone. Just a lovely car. Really nice. I wish they saw more of them, actually. It probably does need a little bit of a price snip as well. I think it's a car that should be, look at the BYD seal. It should be 52, 53 grand. It's a bit dark. Is that the lighting? Okay, a bit dark. Well, I can turn it up, but I don't know if you'd want that too, right? I saw the Renault 5 today while having my Fluence ZE. Having your Fluence ZE what? Burnt? The 5 is gorgeous. It is. It really is. Get it in yellow. Get it in the top trim. It's only 33 grand. Beautiful. Great to hear of your Xpeng visit. Be interested in the G7 or maybe the G9. I can't remember, is it the G7 or the G9 I'm going to look at next week. It's one or the other, and the facelift G6. So keep an eye on the channel, subscribe and all that stuff. Behind the 2007 Merc CLK Black Edition in black all the way from Dublin to Cork today. What a rare car. Off to a high-end car show, I think, in Dublin. Any thoughts? Yeah, I love the older stuff. I really do. A neighbour of mine has an SLK. Also in black. Yeah. Are you saying you want to buy one? Or, yeah, they're just the older stuff is not always, but generally more interesting. Very good and very rare show. Great to have interaction with the audience. I agree, Brian. Thank you. What car would you choose between the Tiguan PHEV or ID7? I would probably buy the ID7. Nothing wrong with the Tiguan. I'm personally over SUVs. And I hate as well that we call some cars SUVs and they're really not SUVs. They're just, to me, an SUV was something Tony Soprano drove. What was that? Was it Cadillac Escalade or something? Or an X5 or an X7. That's an SUV. I think this notion of calling like a Nissan Qashqai an SUV is ridiculous. I've got a 97 Tourer. Boot is far smaller than you think. Is it kind of shallower because the batteries and everything? I didn't notice that myself, but again, like everyone's specific to their needs, I suppose. Some people need more room in the boot, some people don't. That is a Tourer? Yeah, okay. Well, Whale Dinton, interesting juxtaposition of names. Maybe you two could take it offline, as they say, and talk about it. There's one for the measuring tape. Actually, maybe Whale, you could run out to your car now and measure the boot for us. Wish I got a Model Y. Yeah, we're talking about that again today. I only had the long range Model Y 2 weeks ago. Great car. I get that some people don't like Teslas because of your man. Fine, but as cars, very little wrong with them. Charging speed is brilliant. Software is great. They haven't really evolved that much in the last few years, if you're being brutally honest. Like the tech and stuff is very reliable. But you could jump into a brand new Model Y or, one from a few years ago, and it doesn't really look that different. Even the interface. That's the kind of, for such a tech-heavy company, I'm kind of surprised they haven't just switched that up a bit. My dream car is the Alpine version of 5. Not interested in larger cars, so the 5N is not interesting. Okay. Your review of the Alpine just made me want it more. Yeah, it's a great car. A lot of fun. Don't have to spend bonkers money on it as well. Again, they're giving you lots of Alpine options. You can get the 180, you can get the 220, you can get the GTS, the normal versions. You don't have to get the ones with the bigger wheels and the it's just fun, and there's no doubt people like Clarkson have said it better than I can in the last episode of the Grand Tour, something about how no, electric cars are a bit boring. We need more Alpines, A290s and stuff like that to make it interesting. For those of us that are petrol heads, obviously the engine and the performance of the cars got us interested, but there was also other aspects of the car, if you're honest, whether there was Recaro seats, the wheels, the design. Like when I don't drive my 911 very often, but even when I look at the front window of it, just the shoulders in the car are beautiful. And it's nearly like, I wish, if I ever win the lotto, I'll probably get a different 911, but I'll get a garage where you can bring it into your sitting room and you can just look at the car. It's a bit like an Apple Mac. Like I have an iMac screen down there that's like 7 years old, so it's probably out of date. But it's actually, if I do get my little YouTube shelf in the background, I'll probably stick it on it because they look good. So yeah, I mean, electric cars, they obviously have to drive well. The lighter they can get, the better. But it's a big part of the story, but it is only part of the story. And I think the more aesthetically interesting cars can be, I think like we'll have to just maybe change what got us into cars, maybe. And then there'll be other people that they're just like, look, they just don't do it for me. Milk floats. I get it. Yeah, the boot's very shallow in the ID7. Okay, well obviously you get a bike in it, but if you like, that was the same with the A6 Avant I had recently. It had, I think, just over 400 litres in the boot, but it barely took the dog in the dog box thing. And if you're buying a Tourer, you want to be able to get bikes in it, adult bikes, and otherwise, what's the point of getting an estate? Do you have a car collection? What are they? I have a 997, 911. That's it. Yeah. I should have and didn't buy an E30 325M Sport several times in my life. Should have bought a 993. I've had an E92 M3, owned that for a year. Mad car, very expensive to run. But any kind of interesting car is going to cost you in maintenance, especially if it's older. So yeah, no, just one car. Had an MX-5 last year. I only had 26,000 miles on it. It was absolutely mint. But I did sell it. And the one car that I can't rule out never owning is a Honda S2000, but the price of them has gone bananas. For anyone who's looking for an S2000, there's Hollybrook Motors, who are in the north. They have a black one at the moment. If I didn't have the car I have, I would be buying it. So someone else go and buy that car. Recently purchased the Nero PHEV, got 1,400 kilometers by charging every 2 or 3 days before I had to refill the petrol tank. Great car. It's a pity PHEVs with greater battery range are not more affordable, people. Yeah, I agree with you. And, Adrian, it's only really in the last year and a half, in Ireland at least anyway, that we have PHEVs with, truly decent range. Like the G35 series, the 530e, that was the biggest selling. I think the VRT and a new one of them was 1,200 quid or something. So people were importing them left, right, and centre. But it was a real world range of 40 kilometres. Not great. And it's never 40 kilometres anyways, as I'm sure you know. So, yeah, look, it's going to take time. Stuff that's out now, like the VW stuff, the Skoda stuff, the Cupra stuff, they will all do minimum 100 kilometres, but they're all fresh cars. So, they're not going to be massively cheap anytime soon. Is there a new T-Roc video coming? So, didn't get to go to have a look at the world premiere of that. You can't do them all, but I don't think anyone from Ireland went to see that car. I will be getting to see it Sunday / Monday week. It won't be a driving, but it will be here's what I think of how it looks kind of thing. Have you ever weighed your car? No, but I do believe a 997 is about 13 and a bit 100 kilos. Just looking at the questions, making sure I don't miss any, and thank you for all the questions. For a company car, I can get a Seal, a Model 3, or a Lexus RZ 300e. Which would you go for? The Lexus RZ is okay. So there's a new facelift of that coming. Probably be January before it comes here. Price won't be announced till October, and it's definitely going to be 60 grand plus car. The Seal and the Model 3 are both considerably cheaper than that, and they both drive with a sportier kind of vibe than the Lexus. Now, the Lexus over engineering is unbelievable. Everything is like, so the new version of this car, and I assume you'd be getting the new version, they've tweaked every e-motor on every single wheel. They've obviously got steer by wire in certain versions of it, which is a little bit weird. There's basically no top in the steering wheel. I do a video of that on elsewhere in the channel if you want to go and have a look. And like even the noise of the windows closing in a Lexus sounds different to 99% of other cars. But I would definitely have to look, try all three. If you're someone who likes driving, I think you'll prefer the Seal or the Model 3 because they just have a sportier drive to them. That said, they're going to be firmer. I can't look past Lexus supercharging. Again, if you're going to travel the country a little bit, it's unbelievable. It's 44 cents a kilowatt hour. It's 20 cents cheaper than e-cars if you're paying as you go. Yeah, but and it's quite a while since I drove the Seal. This is the saloon version of it, but that's also a kind of a nice sporty feel to it. Although the boot is quite compromised because, and it is a little bit in the Model 3 as well, just the way the design of the glass rear window. So the Lexus would have a better boot opening in it. But if you like gadgets, Model 3. If you like sporty drive, Seal or Model 3. And if you like really nice refinement, buy the Lexus. Sorry I missed your question there for a while. That's Aero UK. Where are we going now? I'm in the market for a used 7-seater. Keep coming back to the Volvo XC90. Yeah, I see why you would. I'm mainly looking at the 21 to 23 models. Are there any specific years or trim I should avoid? How's the reliability in your opinion? I know someone who's running a 2021 or 22 one, hasn't had any issues yet. It's plug-in hybrid. Obviously Volvo Or-Line or Design, is it? It's Or Design. Ultra trim is still also very nice. Again, try and buy it with loads and loads of history. I think, with a 20, like the residuals on them are strong. A 23 model, I don't know exactly what you're going to pay, but it is a 100 grand car new. the range is just okay in the plug-in hybrid. I wouldn't say it's amazing. Even I reviewed a 2025 version, and the range should be longer on it, because it was facelifted towards the end of last year. But I think in a 21, 22, 23 model, you're still very, very fresh. Try and buy it from a dealer, and just service, warranty, all that stuff. But I'm not aware of any horror stories. But again, it's a 100 grand car, so if stuff does go wrong down the road, whether it's suspension related, whatever, it is going to be dear. Won't even tell you how much a pair of coffins are for a 911. Like, I did know what I didn't think I was buying a Nissan Micra, like, in terms of maintenance, but it's expensive. Currently driving a Kia EV6, great car. Just turned 166,000 kilometers, air filters and tires, all it's got. I'm using one pedal drive, brakes still as new. And around the brakes, is there any rust or anything like that? Because I was at a Sci-Mi conference at the start of the year, and there's a guy, Cleveley EV is, I think, the name of the company. They're in the south of the UK, third generation motor mechanic family, basically, and the current custodian of the business has massively invested in EVs, and they can repair batteries, and they service Model Y or Model S's, because people with Model S's don't want to sell them. And he was saying they're replacing more tires, they're replacing more suspension arms, and people aren't using the brakes, so they're having to kind of just polish away some of the rust on them. So interesting. But also, I'd love to know, and you probably don't know, it would be better if more cars, the same way you can check your service stuff on the screen, if they had the state of health of the battery. Because I'd love to know, 166,000 kilometers there, how's the battery doing? I am aware of a couple of taxi drivers with e-Neros in Ireland who have like 300,000 kilometers and still 92% state of health in the battery. So I think the world needs more of those kind of good stories. But interesting, you're just, air filters and tires. Although we have a Nissan Ariya at home, and yesterday it was quite wet in the morning when I was driving. It's only 9,000 kilometers on it, and the grip in the wet when it accelerate was shocking. Again, my father's ID3, 13,000 kilometers was all the tires lasted on it. So, yeah. I'd love an i8, but electric range is around 40 kilometers. Yeah, it's not really about the electric range on that car, though, is it? Same as the Audi R8. There are two cars I always kind of compare. I don't know why, because obviously the R8's out quite a bit longer. Nice car though, and mad the engine size when you tell people, like, they're expecting to say it's a 4 litre or something. I've ordered an EV9 GT. Would a Volkswagen California Ocean hold its value a lot more? Possibly would, yeah, in the short term anyway. I know Bischoff Motors have 23 Volkswagen Californias for nearly what they were brand new. And I like that you can daily a California. Obviously, it doesn't have all the seats of the EV9. And initially the EV9 will be cheaper as well, and you can obviously charge the EV9 for very little at home. Again, do you like your adventures away? If you do, it's obviously gonna, you're killing two birds there. You've got a usable car and you can camp in it. You could camp in an EV9 as well. It's bloody massive, but obviously it's not a purpose-built camper. No rust on the EV6 discs or anything around the kind of wheel. That's interesting. Brother hasn't a clue about cars. In his late 50s, tells me he wants to buy an Audi. I tell you, buy an A6 Grand Fiat. Says it fits the golf clubs. He arrives on a month later with an Audi e-tron GT. Can you fit golf clubs in an e-tron? I like that the guy in his 50s, who's hopefully, got a few quid because he's not paying for things that you spend in your 30s and 40s, hasn't a clue about cars and arrives home with an e-tron GT. That's my kind of bloke. I hear you, though. It's a little bit tight for golf clubs, maybe. Are you a little bit jealous, though, that he has an e-tron GT and not an A6? What do you think of cars coming to the Irish market in the next months, like the new Nissan Leaf and the CHR Plus? I couldn't go on a trip to see the CHR Plus, unfortunately. I would have really liked to see it. I have seen the Nissan Leaf. Nissan Leaf, wait till you see it. It's a very different offering. Obviously, you've seen pictures of it, but it's until you see it in the flesh. It's a very different offering to what the old Leaf was. One thing that I can't understand is they have this kind of fabric all on the tops of the doors, and it's in certain trims it's cream, and people's hands are gonna wreck the top of that, and particularly if you want to use it as a public service vehicle, you know people with finger mark. It's just I don't understand. That's the most memorable thing, and also the buttons and the drive selector and stuff on the Leaf looks a little bit cheap, but overall it's a much more attractive car than what it was. CHR Plus, that's not really going to blow us away, is it? It's just, it's got range. Scan the battery yesterday. Battery with 92% state of health. All cells are all balanced. Interesting. Yeah. The EV skeptics need to probably just hear some of these things. You can still not like them, but, don't talk about them being useless and doing 100 kilometers after a year. I want to get a Polestar 2. Currently working in Denmark. I think they look great. What are they like? Good, sporty to drive, very minimalistic on the inside. Feels very Volvo-like. Even the gear shifter is exactly like a Volvo. Again, good handling car. They were great value. They're a little bit more expensive now. Sort of this time last year, they were doing delivery mileage Polestar 2s, the old version, but really it's not much difference. And they were like 33 grand. Which anyone in the UK is going to really enjoy how we say 33 in Ireland, but there you go. Yeah, can't really go wrong. Don't get it in white. I have a Sportage PHEV, unsure of going for a full EV. I'm now totally convinced of getting only EV for second and any next car. And going for full EV, I'm now totally convinced of getting only EV. Okay, so you're unsure of going full EV, but you're convinced of getting only EV. Valencia, I'll try and make sense of that. If you have a plug-in hybrid, and you very rarely, as someone else said there a while ago, 1,400 kilometers till I had to put petrol in it, just get an EV. Because you don't need the petrol in your life. XC60 versus Lexus NX 450h Plus. Price similar. Is CVT really bad as people say? No, it's not that it's bad. It's just different. It's just like this one curve of noise, and when you accelerate, it just keeps going, and it doesn't stop until you lift your foot off or you reach the speed that you need to reach, and then it quietens down again. And when it's in the quiet mode, it's so relaxing, really, really quiet. So it's not that it's bad. It's just, yeah. I suppose you get into a Lexus and everything is, as I mentioned, so refined and so quiet and so lovely. Then you have this kind of like a cat being strangled noise when you accelerate. XC60 also look a great car. The screen in the NX is massive. If you don't like huge big screens, you may not like it for that reason. Everything is a bit more kind of discreet in the XC60. But the Lexus, again, that Lexus green or the Sonic silver color, I think it is, with the kind of the tan leather, looks so classy. Do you remember the scrappage grant in the 90s? Of course. I think we need something like that now, actually, to get into EVs, if that's where people want to go, obviously. PHEV CHR 251. What would I gain going for a 261? You wouldn't gain anything. You'd lose loads of money. So for that reason, I would stick with the car you have. A CHR plug-in hybrid will always be sellable. Amazing warranty that Toyota do if you continue to get it serviced in your Toyota dealership. Yeah, don't have FOMO over a CHR Plus. Get one in 2 years' time or whatever. It'll be absolutely fine. Mate wants a small, quick hatch. He's looking at a VW Up GTI. Is this madness? No, it's not. We could all be hit by a bus tomorrow. Not all of us watching, that would be ridiculous, but you know what I mean. If that's what you like, get it. Paddy, who I do the podcast with, has an Up, not a GTI. He has an E-Up, actually. Rare enough car now in Ireland. You possibly have to look at importing. That fella down in Waterford, the Paul Connolly, is that his name? He seems to be importing a lot of very, well, I haven't seen them in the flesh, but online anyway. Really good spec Japanese import stuff. GTIs, Golf GTIs, stuff like that. You might have to go down that route to get an Up GTI. Obviously, this is the UK as well. Quirky little car. I've never driven one, obviously, but Yeah, even the Polo GTIs really interest me. The only GTIs I ever had were Golfs. I had Mark 4s and 5s. Um, for me, I think the Mark 7, not even the 7.5, just the Mark 7 is the sweet spot. I think the VW paywall will be a certain thing. Yvonne Kennedy. Hard to know. Again, only talking about this on today's first episode of season 3 of the Drivers Republic podcast. So get that wherever you get your podcast. We're talking about exactly this. And I said to Paddy, you think Volkswagen are kind of testing the water? Because it's not like they're not giving you an extra 100 brake horsepower by paying, I think it's 600 quid. Or you can do it by a month if you want to buy it outright. And then I was wondering, is the outright price for just your ownership of the car, or is it that car for life? Like, I think with the Model S, when you had free charging, it didn't matter who owned that car. That car had free charging for life, as far as I know. I'd say VW are just seeing, and they'll also collect data from it, and they'll probably find out who is actually interested in spending some money for some extra brake horsepower, and then they may or may not decide to continue it, I suppose. I think it's a bit rich, though. I really do. Like, give me some extra brake horsepower for a monthly fee. You know, we have enough Netflix in our life, don't we? Is there a car you did a review and then drive it again and changed your opinion? It'd be rare enough that I would drive a car again. I suppose I might do an international launch and then drive it at home. And you can muscle memory, whatever it is, when you're used to driving your own roads in your own area, your own locality, it's much easier to compare suspensions and performance or whatever. So is there a car I did a review of? Change your opinion. From memory, no. I think I try my best to be very transparent and honest in car reviews, and I don't really care if someone is a little bit upset with me on a Monday morning when a review goes up, and no doubt someone in the brand or a salesperson, or most recently I think it was a service person, had a little bit of an issue that I'd mentioned the service period on someone's car. So yeah, I just, if my opinion was changing, I think they'll be doing something wrong. You know, if you're giving your kind of seat of the pants honest feeling, it should be fairly consistent. I think like the BYD C-Line 7 was a car that I don't get the dual motor of version. I just think the suspension can't cope with the power. It's fine with the rear wheel drive. And when I spoke about that, and I, was honest about it, obviously people who had bought that car were a little bit upset, and they're strangers. They're on YouTube. I didn't know them, but people just come in and then come at you, for being honest. Are you doing a Q&A every week now? I don't know. Is there an interest in a weekly Q&A? Any news from Say It At All? Refreshed Leon, maybe. A. O'Connor. I'm going to Ibiza in a Venga Boys kind of way in October to have a look at some new Seat. Well, actually, heavily facelifted Seats. Yes, they do have overall a small market share compared to Cooper. Obviously, we're growing much faster, but there seems to be an appetite, whether it's just Spanish heritage of it, whatever it is, there seems to be an appetite to hang on to Seat. I don't think it costs, any great big deal, because underneath, obviously, they're the same cars as whatever else, so they just have to stick a different badge on it, really, and a different steering wheel. I don't think there's any major expense from a VW Group point of view. So yeah, I think it's about 3% market share or something like that. Not here, obviously, in Europe, or is it in Germany? It's one or t'other. So and there were rumors of them going last year, and then I think Thomas Schaefer, the CEO of VW, not the group, he had maybe been misquoted or something. Anyway, there was a bit of backpedaling, and they were like, no, say it, nothing to see here, say it, or staying where they are. So yeah, the new stuff coming, heavily facelifted. The Ibiza is lovely. Yeah, one of those first cars lots of people drove. Kieran Mulqueen, hello Kieran. Kieran is Crazy House Prices on Instagram. If you're trying to buy a house, go follow Kieran. Even if you're not trying to buy a house, he's an interesting kind of guy. So he will give you good tips on that. The E-Terran 9 soon for a week. Have you driven it? Looks great but expensive. I haven't. Nope. So we'll all watch your review, Kieran. So we'll find out is it good or not. Paul, what's your favorite rock song to play when driving? Wow. Pink Floyd are good. AC/DC definitely good for driving. Not really a rock song, I suppose, but I do like Sussudio, Phil Collins. Did I mention that? You mentioned CVT earlier. Does Toyota have that? The Growling Toyota Yaris and Corolla when you go to speed up. Yeah, that's what that is. Sorry, Ibiza the island. I get you. Well, that's why they're doing the facelift Ibiza in Ibiza, obviously. When are the closing parties in Ibiza, by the way? Because it's late October. We're going. It is a Ryanair late night flight home, and I have seen some horror stories on Ibiza Ryanair flights of just the closing party continuing on the plane. I think the closing parties are September. I am showing my age now saying that, but yeah, do some raving. Don't do more than 6 drinks. Yeah, definitely. I'll be very good. Do I still like Debbie Harry? These are random questions. Yes, she has a place in all our hearts. That's certainly music fans. Although she was gorgeous back in the day, in fairness. So yeah, Debbie is. She's not. I'd have her on the wall if there was a wall. Just scanning through now just to see what else question wise there is. Valencia Galler from earlier on. Sorry, I meant I was unsure, so that's why I got the PHEV. Most of my drive is an EV. Now I regret and wish I should have gone full EV, and I will. Sorry, getcha. Apologies. Yeah, as I said earlier on, if you have a plug-in hybrid and you are telling people, oh, sure, I only have to put petrol into this every 1,500 kilometers, 2,000 kilometers, then just go and buy an EV because you're clearly constantly driving in EV mode. So just get an EV. I know you have that back up in the back of your head. It's like, oh, but if I want to drive 7,000 kilometers in one day, I have the petrol engine. I do get that, but I think that's just in people's heads. I really do. Loving the Q&As. Thanks, Derek. The new Sport X Trail has caught my eye. Do you think it'll be good? Yeah. X Trail. Does it need a sport trim? Don't know. It's not a particularly sporty car, but it's a bit like the GR trim on some of the Toyota stuff. Lots of UK registered cars spotting and transporters here in recent weeks. Have the floodgates opened again for UK imports in some way? It depends on the car, I suppose. There are definitely some cars where it still makes sense, particularly electric stuff. Diesel stuff, absolutely not. But yeah, stuff like 530Es and stuff, yeah, there's probably still worthwhile doing there. I have a CVT. It does growl up, then it's a good way of describing it. Growls up and then cuts off when the power settles down. Fine thereafter. Yaris around town, hardly notice except going up a steep hill. Yeah, true. My father-in-law just buys Yarises all the time. But this is his first hybrid Yaris that he got this year. He's gone from putting €20 a week in a manual Yaris to €10. Now, the car did cost more money, so you're not quite in the black just yet, but yeah, and it's in EV mode so often that just a very quiet, relaxing experience. Very like driving an EV, really. Ever sold a car and then regretted it years later? Yes, thank you, Karen. It's a good question. I had a beautiful E46 325 Ci, so the coupe version. It was a 04. It had xenon headlights, a sunroof, electric sunroof. It had Bluetooth. It had like cream leather. It was black on the outside. It had the M-Tech wheels. Lovely car. It had 200,000 kilometers on it, and the gearbox was still perfect. It drove so well. I bought it off a Polish mechanic on the Nace Road. It was $3,000. I sold it to a mate for $3,000 because I think there was more babies coming or something. I needed a bigger car. And I met him a little while ago after. I said, how are you getting on with the... I sold it. I was like, what? I definitely would have bought it. And because it was so little outlay, it was $3,000. It only came up with my time up the other day, and I literally said to one of the kids, I should have never sold that car. Had the little push-out windows on the back, but they were electric. The E46 is a classic looking BMW. Amazing handling. The 318 was very sluggish, but the 325 and lovely noise off it. So yeah, not a very expensive or extravagant car that I regret, but the M3 I don't really regret it. I had my fun, that's all that matters, and it was a ridiculously expensive car to run anyway, so I was fine with that one going. Cooper Born I meant earlier on for Richie, yeah, potential ID3 replacement. Leaning towards the L-Rock also. Told the ID2 will be Q4 2026. Yeah, I don't know why the ID2 is taking so long. I really don't. I saw that car March 2 years ago. the video exploded on YouTube because I was one of the first in the world to get that car up, and there wasn't even an interior in that car; it was just the outside. I've obviously seen it again since. I've seen the ID1. I don't know why. Don't know why it takes so long. I really don't, and it's something that I think VW needs to somehow change in how long it takes from a car to be prototype to actually being in showrooms and on people's driveways. It just takes too long. Yeah, just bear in mind if you're buying a Born, you're and the L-Rocs essentially as well. You're buying the same car underneath. It's just tweaks. There's facelifts. There's slightly different interior. I think there's something special in the Born in terms of it is the same platform, but they've done some tweaking to Cupra, and one of the bosses in Cupra, who's from Spain, has confirmed this with me. He said no, they do put some extra magic into Cupra in terms of handling. So that would probably be a bit more of an interesting car to drive. I do think the VZ, which is again not quite a year ago, but a year ago-ish, I filmed that car, and I think it was low 60s. Same car is 40 grand now. So we were saying earlier on, have we seen the last of the price cuts? Maybe we haven't, but that was a substantial price cut. So the Born VZ, I drove the L-Roc RS, grand. I don't think, like, it's just faster in a straight line. It doesn't really, nothing particularly special about it. Obviously that Mamba green looks kind of cool. So try the L-Roc if you like. Cooper Born, it's been around a while, but the VZ just have, even when you lift off, it has this lovely feel to it. It's very good. Right, we're in an hour now, so I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon. Any decent option available here for an aftermarket used car warranty? Obviously you've got map free, but they're generally not great. I have bought aftermarket warranties in the past just from the brand. Like BMW do a very good aftermarket full warranty that you pay. Porsche do it as well. You are going to spend anywhere around 700 quid a year for it, but if you're running something that has a very expensive gearbox, whatever, things that won't be, get out clauses with wear and tear, then it probably is working on it. But in terms of aftermarket, I don't know. And if anyone is aware of one, feel free to comment there on the last few moments of this. Any brands that give you more free reign than others to be honest during reviews? And do you think journalists should be free from retribution from brands for honest reviews? Of course they should. And any journalist worth their salt will not care of any feedback or flack or whatever. It hasn't really happened to me that often. It's happened once or twice, all right, and it's more just someone giving you feedback, or they might say, "Oh, we thought you would have liked that more," or whatever. But look, just because I don't think something is the greatest car, or because I do think something is the greatest car, someone else might have a totally different opinion to it, and that's cool. And all you have as someone who's doing this job is your opinion. And if you don't have an opinion, well, what's the point in doing it in the first place? But you can't apologize for saying as you see it. No, are there any? There might be brands out there, and again, this hasn't happened to me, but I do know one or two people that maybe a phone call would be made, whereas another brand wouldn't even bother. They'd just be like, "Look, I didn't make the car." So, there's a guy who's retired now, but he used to do that job in Kia, and he said years and years and years ago, I sent, I think it was a letter at the time to a journalist to say that I wasn't too appreciative of their review, and the journalist, I can't remember who it was, they published the letter in that column the next week, and he said that was the last time I ever got upset about a car review. I didn't design the car, I didn't make the car, I just sell the car here in Ireland. And I think that's a good way to look at it. It's never personal, and for me, I'd be terrified of not being honest, because all you have with this channel is your opinion, and if you can't stand over it, why would people watch you? So, and again, if I say something is really, really good, you can believe that it's really good, because there's no point in me wasting your time as a viewer. It's very easy to do with this stuff. If someone thinks you're waffling, they'll just like on to the next video. So yeah, you absolutely should be free from retribution. I think most journalists will that's how they'll want it to be, and if anyone has an issue with that, tough. Another random one: will we ever see full autonomy on Irish roads and Boreans? They do test a lot of cars actually in Ireland for that very reason, because our roads are a bit more narrow, our weather can be terrible. The kind of the lane keep assist and stuff, if that works in Connemara, well, it'll work on a German autobahn. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, look how long it took the legislation for e-scooters to be sorted, and even now, people having accidents on them, people using them inappropriately. I'm sure we will someday. I just don't think it'll be anytime soon. Company car recommendation for an EV, says Jeff. We talked about this earlier on. ID7, BYD Seal, Tesla Model 3, Hyundai Ioniq 6. I get you, a kind of bonkers looking car, but a very efficient car. Smart #1 also got a big price cut recently. Yes, it did. Would be cool to see an Irish version of the TDC YouTube channel or Auto Alex, etc. But reckon the used car market is too small here for something like that to work, and insurance issues. Yeah. The big thing for me is, people, when the video I did where I was talking about YouTube revenue and stuff, and thank you to those who have tipped today as well. I really do appreciate it. It's not the reason I'm doing these, but people do want to support. It's massively appreciated. People were saying, oh, what about barn finds? But like, that's Johnny Smith's thing, and I'm not Johnny Smith, and I don't have the resources Johnny Smith has, and the film crew, and the knowledge as well. Like, I'm like, I always say this, I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of cars. Might feel like I have a little bit of knowledge, and hopefully I do, but there's no point probably trying to do what someone else is doing. Hyundai does it for me. Yeah, they're solid EVs, decent warranty on them as well. The finance rates with them can sometimes be a little bit expensive, but I think the Koreans just know what they're doing when it comes to EVs. One more question. Darren McCann, in a hunt for a new car, choice is overwhelming: diesel, BEV, HEV, plug-in hybrid, petrol. Each have pros and cons. I've kept the diesel since 2013, no DPF, commute is only 8 kilometers each way, leaning towards a BEV. Yeah, do it. I don't know what car you're in now, obviously, Darren, you don't say. I'm gonna guess it's an Audi A6. I don't know why, but anyway. Yeah, I think if you're doing that kind of commute, 8 kilometers, some would say you should just get a bike, Darren. I don't know how that would sit with you. Bike to work. Yeah, look, there's any amount of EVs will do that journey for you. Again, 8 kilometers. It's there's no point getting plug-in hybrid for that, unless you do really want to have that backup, that cushion of the petrol engine. But EV, I think you'd be fine as long as you can charge at home. Where would you serve as a Fisker Ocean in Ireland? There is one for sale on Dundale. I don't know right now. I don't know where you would get servicing. It's probably is the same car that's been there on Dundale for quite a while. Again, we need an importer, or somebody has to come and sort them out, a bit like the JQ stuff we were talking about earlier on. CarWow, Matt Watson isn't straight with his reviews. Yeah, I don't know. CarWow are kind of owned by some of the car companies now. I think Mercedes and Volvo have a shareholding in CarWow, so yeah, it's a little bit more difficult to be impartial when car companies own your channel. Alright, this really is the last one now. We gotta go. School tomorrow for kids. Liam Marr, last couple of weekends, wife was traveling down the country, found it hard to get a charger. Junction 14, Junction 17, Obama's. What gives? Yeah, it's I had an issue during the week actually. I was trying to charge the Ioniq 9, plugged into a charger in Northside Shopping Centre. They have the newer e-cars charger, the kind of high speed 70, 75 each side. That one of the sides of that was blocked by a plug-in hybrid, that it stretched the cable from the charger 2 doors down, 2 spaces down, but they were using the space of the high speed charger. And you can charge a plug-in using the 11 kilowatt side of it for much longer. It's not the 45-minute overstay fee. So that charger was blocked, and there was one or two people, not many, but one or two people defending the person, going, look, they should be able to park where they like. And yes, they technically should. They are paying for it. But you've got someone like Liam's wife there who needs to get a fast charge in a BEV. And this is kind of how I said it to them. I said, it's a bit like someone dragging the petrol pump around to the diesel pump and blocking it. Or how about a mother who just wants to get home with her kids? And I think if people thought like that, they'd be less likely to act the muppet in chargers, blocking them and whatever else it is. So yeah, think of Liam's wife and other people. Yeah, very frustrating. And I can only imagine, Liam, you heard all about it when the missus got home, and I don't want an EV anymore, and I'm not going through this. You could totally get why that would drive you absolutely mad. We need more chargers. They're better than they were. When you compare what happens in the UK, where you get these huge charging hubs, and then you look across the way and there's like a Shell charging hub as well. They just do it differently. It's obviously a much bigger country, but yeah, I can only imagine how difficult that is. When you get kind of, most people might tolerate one charger being full or out of action, but when it's in succession and everyone's tired and everyone wants to get home, that's a melt, I'd say. Right, gotta go, guys. Really do appreciate you sticking with this YouTube live version. You'll be able to watch it back later on as well once I pop it up for normal reviews. And yeah, look, if you're interested in them and they do something, we can do more of them. So once again, appreciate you tuning in, and I will see you next time.